So I wanted to make a quick video on how to install my RETI-Debugger NeoVim plugin. And basically all I'll explain here is also explained in this report here. I just show it visually, so maybe if you see how things are executed in really on my machine, then it might be easier to understand, and and also maybe also more convenient to just watch a video than reading the documentation again. In the documentation report, in the report you can find the installation instructions under appendix, and then under installation and testing and running a Docker container. And they are basically all instructions that I'm going to type in from now on. So I'm first going to clone this repo. It is this repo here because I'm at the moment where I'm recording this, I'm not allowed to make this repo here public. That's why I have to use this repo here. But it basically has the same contents. And yes, now I basically, because I've developed this plugin, I already have this repo here, but now I'm going to install it under the temp directory, git clone. And just because that's my second recording, this move rf. I also have to remove this. Now I can clone it. I made some stupid mistake in the last recording, that's why I make a second recording where I just explain the same thing again. And now does it. And now I'm basically here. I just use VIFM. Now this repo is cloned, and basically the instructions now say to use to basically build the Docker image. And what I first want to do is I have this opened here. I want to explain the Dockerfile that you are just going to execute in a second, in a minute or 2 minutes, 5 minutes. First of all, wait a second. Okay, I'm there again. So first of all, I start with this line. Here just says that you should use Arch Linux as a basis, and here this dots mean what comes after the dot is the version, and by default I use the latest version. But here you can, I believe it was called, this option was called build arc, and then you would specify something like, I don't know, if it was Ubuntu, maybe it was Ubuntu maybe 22 or 4 or something, but by Arch Linux I actually don't know the version numbers at the moment. And and then it says that we use the bash shell as default for executing all these commands. So we install the latest we use the latest version of Arch Linux as basis. And now we install all necessary packages with a Pacman, that's the default Pacman package manager of Arch Linux. And we of course need git to clone the PCC compiler later. Then we need NeoVim, because RETI-Debugger is a NeoVim plugin. Then sudo to execute the commands of the Docker user, with to give the Docker user root access that we're going to create in the second minute. with a sudo command to give it this user root access, then Python, then the package manager of Python. In Python we need that because the PQC compiler, and more precisely the RETI interpreter that's a part of it, is written in Python. And then we need make to install and install the PQC compiler, make it globally accessible with the path, put it in the that's executable into a directory that's accessible via the path variable. Then we execute this one. That's the sudoers file has configurations for the sudo commands to make give a user root access and stuff. And what this lines here means, that the user Docker that we're going to create in a minute, and this user is going, and what this line means is that user Docker gets the permission to access to run any command, that's this one here, with on any host machine as any user and any group with no password. And this all here is any command with, then this one is any command without a password, without necessity to specify a password, and that's here as any group, as any user, and then on any host machine. And that's the user. Then we want to create a group Docker. Then we create the user. That's for the user. That here is for the group. We create a user Docker within the group Docker, and we automatically create a home directory. Oh, by the way, I'm not sure if that here is for the group Docker or the user Docker. I think I was just mistaken, and that this first here is for the group Docker, because normally we would have something like wheel or something, and then you would have to add yourself to the wheel group, and now I call this group Docker, and that's why you have to create this group here and have to add this user Docker to the group Docker. Yeah, I was just mistaken. And then we don't want to type in any passwords, and that's why we just delete the password for Docker, even though we haven't set any here of it yet. And then this passvd file under etc, I believe, doesn't get checked. Then we say from now on we want to execute everything under the user Docker. Then we want to start off in the working directory home Docker that we just created with .m. Normally this home directory is just empty, and so this slash home directory is just empty. With this command here we created this Docker home directory for the Docker user. Then we want then this I'd maybe just show it. By the way, I could now in the background just run the installation command to just create this image, so then we don't have to waste any time looking at it and installing. So it's going to be PQC compiler, and then later loading all Python packages, installing all Python packages. But that's what then we and if the image is I just going to start the image now in the container, because I want to show something. Then I install my favorite terminal explorer via FM, and so now this this Docker home directory is created here, and normally under .config there is no neovim. It's just a mostly empty home directory with just the default files for bash, and I think .cache, .config and .local get installed automatically, are created automatically. But now we have to I'm not sure, but I think nvim should, by installation of I think the nvim directory is also not created because we installed neovim before that, and by this time the Docker user wasn't created yet. And also its home directory not. And that's why we have to create this nvim directory. This VRFM directory now was created because it was installed when the Docker user already existed, but back when we installed the VRFM, when we installed neovim, this Docker user wasn't created yet, and that's why it doesn't create this nvim directory. Only VRFM was created directly because this VRFM config directory was created directly because VRFM was installed when the Docker user already existed, but when neovim was installed, the Docker users didn't exist yet. That's why this directory wasn't created, and that's why we have to create it here. And .config is just the directory for config files. Local share is kinda to where you put your data, and .cache is where you put data that's not important to persist between sessions. That's approximately what these directories make. I often make hash a tempf as directory. That makes it a directory that's only that exists only in my RAM, and that's in this way I don't have to deal with it. Sometimes some programs create really big log files, and that's really annoying if you have a ton of log files in this one folder. That's why this tempfs directory just gets everything from it gets removed because it's in the RAM, and if I reboot my computer, it's gone, and everything here is just waste. That is not important. But actually, basically for now we only need .config and .local. That's important for later. And here we want to create this config file in a .lua, but that's something we are going to only make in a second. So we make this directory, and then we copy this custom init.lua that we have. This custom init.lua that we have here. We are just going to copy it to this neovim config directory, and the default name for this file is init.lua. So we will kind of rename custom init.lua to init.lua because I had to call it custom init.lua because init.lua is a magic name in this directory, this neovim plugin directory standard, and that's why I have to call it init.lua, custom init.lua, and rename it here afterwards. Then in nvim we have this we now have this configuration file init.lua, and this file here is going to be important for later on. Then we clone the PQC compiler. More precisely, we clone the missing semester project branch, and with dev1, that's because we don't need all the commit history, we just want to run this plugin, this project, this Python program. Then we cd to this PQC compiler directory and run and create a virtual environment. Then we activate the virtual environment, and that's here's if I would have used bin fish or something, I would the fish shell, I would have to use this one, but because we use bash over here, it's just source virtual environment bin activate. That's to activate this virtual environment. And then within this virtual environment, we install, this line is maybe unnecessary. That's just to get the newest version of pip. Maybe I remove it afterwards. And then we install all requirements. And that's, here's the PQC compiler. And then, what have I done? And here we just install all dependencies. PyODB is not really necessary. That's just if you want to debug it, and that's probably something you shouldn't, the user shouldn't do. It's just if you develop it. So maybe PyODB is something I made you delete afterwards. But with the .d option, you can debug it, and that's why it has PyODB, because it's part of the default options of the PQC compiler. That also includes this RETI interpreter that we want to use. And what I forgot to mention is NeoVim is needed because the RETI-Debugger is a NeoVim plugin. Sudo is necessary because we want to install and change files in the root directory, and we have a user Docker. The user Docker can only access things in his home directory, but in the root directory, so everything that starts with this slash and is not home Docker. Home Docker is kind of the environment of not environment, but where the home of Docker, and the user Docker can make everything he wants, but everything beneath the slash with user bin and local and stuff, this directories need root access. That's why we need this sudo command to get access to all these directories that are not within the home directory of the Docker. That's why we have to install sudo, and Python pip are needed to install. Pip is to install the required packages, and in Python, because the RETI interpreter that is part of the PQC compiler is written in Python. And then the sudo make install. Maybe I show quickly the make file. This file here. And what the sudo make install makes, and this command is basically necessary. This add here is basically, I think, some time ago, but I think it was to prevent terminal output, to get terminal output by this command. But I'm not 100% sure. And then and we have to execute the sudo, because here's the sudo, and did this have a special meaning? It's some time ago that I wrote this. But what this command should basically do is, under most operating systems, there's this, in many operating systems, there's this concept of a path variable. That's this echo path. That's this variable. Under Windows, you have to type something like path or the environment, or I don't know. And then there's this GUI window, and then you have to set your path variable. But in the Windows under Linux, it's kind of easier. And basically, two ways we could make this PQC compiler runnable at any place globally is make it accessible everywhere, is by we could either put this path of the PQC compiler where this repo into the source folder within this repo, we could make it added to the path variable, and then we could execute the RETI interpreter and PQC compiler. It's called PQC compiler, but we actually only use the RETI interpreter within the PQC compiler. And we could either add this source directory of this repo here, so this directory. We could add this one to the path. But another way is just to create a symlink to a directory that is already part of the path. What is this? Echo path. And we see user local bin. That's where we want to put it. And yeah, and that's a directory that's already part of a path, and we can just make a symlink of this this start of a Python program main.py to this get a symlink into this user local bin. And then we can just call PIC compiler, and this PIC compiler is going to execute properly. Okay. And what we make here is basically we already have a directory that's part of a path, user local bin, and we just create a symlink of this starting point of a Python program, make a symlink to this user local bin directory that is already part of a path. And that's in this way we can symlink or symbolic link, and so we can make this main.py accessible. And this real path is because you can put this main.py at any possible directory, and it should this real path is to get this absolute path, because it's kind of a proper way to create symlinks. Always specify an absolute path here, and then you have no problems if you move the symlink around. Symlink itself to another place or something. Just specify the full absolute path to a main.py. Yeah, what this line here makes is basically just command line magic to if you remember, it's kind of just an implication, and a implication is just the same. If you have A from A follows B, if you have A follows B, then you just have to say not A or B. That's the same, and that's what I basically do here. If a file exists, then remove it. But because of this OR, but I make it with this OR of this bash, with a OR this OR. I don't know if it's called in bash, but OR operator. I call it OR operator of bash, and that's why I have to negate it. Because implication, if you write it as OR, you have to negate the premise thing there. And what it says is if the directory exists, then remove it. No, if a symlink exists, then remove it, or this file, or whatever there is. That's what it means. Yeah, if the file exists, then remove it. Then this sed command is basically to there's this main.py, and there's a shebang at the start. And because you can put it in any directory you want, then of course this shebang has to look differently, because we want to execute it in the virtual environment, and we don't want to install these packages locally in locally, but we want to install these packages kind of in this virtual environment, and then we have to use another Python executable to run within this virtual environment. That's this virtual environment.python. Please. Yeah, this kind of just over here, .bin, and then there's this activate that you already used, and then there's this Python. Yes, and okay, and of course, if you put it in another directory, there's no other way than putting there the absolute path, and this absolute path changes, and that's why you have to use this sed command over here to change this shebang to point to have the right absolute path to the virtual environment where this Python executable that starts within this virtual environment is located. And yeah, we just have to change this shebang, then we give it access rights, execution rights, and and then we create a symlink. And then, as I have shown previously, you can just run this PQC compiler executable here and compile your stuff. Yes, interpret, node immediate, arc1, like run, and then call print arc, and then it's going to execute one, print out one. Quit. Yeah, that's what this make file makes, and yeah, and then we have to, because we have to use sudo because we change we make a symlink to user local bin, and yeah, and that's of course root, the space of the root user, and that's why we have to use sudo. And we install a package in the virtual environment, activate virtual environment. And now I think I have set everything. This custom init.lua is copied to this configuration folder of NeoVim. Right. Okay, and then, yeah, I guess here in this virtual environment we have and like explained in the report here, then we just have to run NeoVim and it's going to install all plugins automatically. But and by running this, because in this we passed a configuration, because in this custom init.lua there's a configuration that installs, yeah, I can just show it, custom init.lua, which is now in the that's now in .config nvim init.lua. Yeah, because I started nvim now, it's installed everything for me. And what's interesting, I made a little mistake here, but that I'm going to explain later. And when we install it, this mistake won't be in there, but I just wanted to let it in because it was a great opportunity to explain something. So here was that init.lua, and this init.lua, yeah, and that's this file that I have opened here. And yeah, and that's the main configuration directory of NeoVim, and that just copied this file over there, and then when NeoVim starts up, it just loads this over here, and what is in here is basically an installation script for the lazy.nvim plugin manager. That's this plugin manager here. And this plugin manager, yeah, here I already corrected my mistakes. Yeah, but I now just show it to you. Yeah, and basically this here's a installation script for lazy.nvim plugin manager that's also going to install all the packages. But I now want to quickly remove everything again, so I go to nvim lazy and just remove everything. And now everything is as normal again. Now when I type in, yeah, basically as explained in the report, where is it? If I now type nvim, it's just going to install everything for me. But I made a little mistake, and because of this mistake, the WitchKey plugin that I also install is not working. And now I show how to correct this. So now it installed all packages, and I want to quickly show my mistake. And because of this error, the WitchKey plugin isn't loaded immediately, and that's why I have to call this which key plugin isn't loaded because the setup function wasn't called, and now I have to manually call the setup function. Which key setup, and now it's working. But I made another and yeah. But yeah, now I'm going to explain everything. I first start with the init.lua file. So this is the file that is now in the was now passed to the configuration folder of NeoVim. It is now called init.lua, and what stays in this file is first of all there's this function standard path, and that's basically a function that should if you install NeoVim, there are many places depending on the distribution and that you are on. There are different locations for different special folders and stuff. And for example, here data, that's where the user data is stored. That's as here, if I execute Lua fn dot vim fn.standard path, that's the directory I just was. That was this dot local in this home directory of Docker. It was this dot local. Oops! Oh, I made a mistake. I equal here. Oh, I made a typo. Yeah, and that's this directory where we have just been local share nvim. That's the directory where I just deleted. Local share nvim, where I just deleted lazy to install it again. And yeah, and depending on distribution, there are different directories for special folders where special things are stored. For example, user data, and this data user data directory is this local share nvim, and depending on distribution, it's a different place. And that's this function tells you where on your distribution is this directory. And in there we want to have a folder lazy.nvim, and there we want to install this plugin manager. And yes, and here we check if this path to this plugin manager already exists. No, basically this lazy path is basically the path to this plugin manager. Yes, this directory lazy.n. Within lazy there are the plugins, and and it's kind of funny that lazy.nvim is a plugin manager, but it installs itself as a plugin within itself as a plugin manager. Yeah, and there's this directory, and that's this lazy path. And yeah, we check if this lazy path already exists, and if not, it should be installed. And what this here is, that's for asynchronous execution. There is this lavuv, I don't know how it's called. It's a call of this famous libuv library into Lua. It's a port of libuv to Lua, not a port. It's a API. It makes this libuv accessible. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but it's kind of libuv in Lua. libuv is a famous library for asynchronous execution. And what it basically does, it executes fstat, checks if gives back a table of information about a path, and if this path doesn't exist, I think it returns nil or something. And yes, and not nil will be true. Not nil will be true, and then it's going to install. But if it exists, it returns a table with information about this directory file, this directory or file. In this case, it's a directory, and this if won't execute if it returns a table. Anyways, and it clones the repository into this lazy path directory, as you see here. And yes, And then we have to prepend this lazy path to the runtime path. And help RTP, and runtime path is basically a similar concept to the path variable that we that I already explained. Echo path. It's a similar concept. Yeah, and the concept is just that you have a path of all paths where possibly executables can be found, and then this just checks this all directories in this runtime path or in the Linux in this path variable, and checks if this executable can be found. Or and that's just the same thing in NeoVim with the runtime path. RTP. And we of course need to have this plugin manager in this runtime path to be executable, so we can call require on it later. It requires kind of just the import of Lua, to import things in Lua. So I skip over map leader. And then we have here our plugins that every plugin has this, also my plugin has this setup function here, and also this lazy.nvim, local share nvim lazy.nvim has here this, if you just require here this require lazy, then if you don't specify something like .example or .state or something, then it's just going to execute init.lua. And here we should have I don't have my favorite plugin installed. And here we have this setup function, also like in my plugin here, this setup function. And this NeoVim plugin does also just and my NeoVim plugin that just and this lazy.nvim, here it is, and this lazy.nvim also takes arguments over the setup function, and that's the plugins that are going to be installed. And here I specify all plugins. It's a table of tables, and in this tables the structure of this tables is basically defined here in this repo. And I made a really stupid mistake that I'm going to correct in a second. The setup function gets called with the plugins, and then it's going to install the plugins immediately. And besides that, I want to install, here I'm installing my RETI-Debugger plugin, but I'm also going to install the witch key and the Kanagawa theme plugin. And another quick thing I want to explain is what the plugin manager actually does. Lazy.nvim, so the basic thing a plugin manager should do is it should under this data user configuration path, it should under lazy install it just clones the repositories here. So what I installed here is I installed the RETI-Debugger, I installed the witch key plugin, and I installed Kanagawa. And because my RETI-Debugger has a dependency, because it draws its windows with this NUI library, it also needs this NUI as a dependency. And that's what we see over here. RETI-Debugger, Kanagawa, the plugin manager itself, lazy.nvim, NUI, and witch key. And what it does, it just clones its repositories and adds these directories here, RETI-Debugger, Kanagawa, to the runtime path, like it was itself added to the runtime path. And because they are added to runtime path, if I require them, then it goes into this Lua directory, and if I require RETI-Debugger, it goes to the Lua directory, and here RETI-Debugger, and then it executes this init.lua. It goes into init.lua, and if I write RETI-Debugger.config, it goes into this file. But in this case, if I don't have a dot something, it goes into the init.lua and executes this file. Yes. Okay. And what LACI also does, that's why it's called lazy, it does lazy loading. So if something isn't needed at the moment, it doesn't load it. It only loads something if it's needed at the moment. And that's now where I come to my little mistake I made. And here it is already corrected, and this, I think this is already pushed, so you won't have this error, but I made a mistake. And because of this mistake, if I go into NVim and the switch key plugin doesn't work. And here's my mistake. I have to correct it quickly. And because of my mistake, I just activate relative number. And because of my stupid mistake, if I don't specify options, this setup function of which key doesn't get called. And even though it is empty, I have to specify this options argument. And then this setup function is going to be called. But without this options, the setup function doesn't get called if I don't specify this options argument. This one here. That are the options that are going to be passed to a setup function. But if I don't specify the options, the setup function also doesn't get called. But the setup function has to be called. And even though they are empty, I have to create this empty options variable here. And what I also changed, here I of course want to have R and not P. I don't know why I chose P, because of PCC compiler, but it's RETI-Debugger, and that's why it has to be R. Yeah, and here I can use this. Yeah, of course, here it installs dependency, and here this config. I believe that gets called when the plugin is loaded or starts loading. Init is called this init. Here is called before the plugin is loaded or anything is loaded. That's at the beginning, and this is while the plugin is loaded. Yeah, when the plugin loads, and this function gets executed. Yeah, because I could have done it also in a different way. I could just specify it. Yeah, maybe I changed it up for later. But that's a great opportunity to explain something important. Yeah, I can either do it this way and require the RETI-Debugger. I can require it because it's in the runtime path. It was put into a runtime path by lazy.nvim. This way I can call require. And here just put these options in here. And then I actually don't need this config option anymore. Because here I just call the setup function, but it anyways gets called if I have this options argument. But I think that at the moment it doesn't work because I haven't made setup a. Yeah, I think there will be a mistake at the moment because I have a little. I didn't apply to the standard with my setup function, but we can just try it. But I believe it shouldn't work now. Yeah, I just fix it quickly. Okay, turns out I didn't make a mistake in the implementation. Yeah, it's yeah. If I just changed it up to be, so this init.lua has now just options, and these options just get, if there's a this options option, then this it's just going to pass this table to the setup function, to my setup function, and then I don't have to use this config option and make this function and call the setup function and passes this options to it. Yeah, I kind of made it at the beginning, and now I just just saw that, yeah, I could just do it this way. That's kind of more convenient. So yeah, I think I will also change this function up to just choose options, and yeah, you won't see it anymore. Yeah, but it was a great opportunity to explain some things. But you won't see this code anymore with this config function. Yeah, and what we have here is I also installed 2 other plugins, and the plugins are WitchKey and Kanagawa. And yeah, Kanagawa is just a really pretty color scheme, and that's I chose it because by default this GUI windows that you can, for example, see here or here, this GUI windows look really ugly. They have a really bright blue color, and it just looks ugly, and that's why I chose to use a color scheme. And because this color scheme uses I think there are 2 colors, and then there's 256 colors support, and by default the Vim uses this 8-bit colors, and this, I think, TermGUI colors, I'm not sure. I think either it gives true color support or it gives support for 256 color support. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's 250. No, I think it is true color, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this ASCII escape sequences that your terminal needs, and they can be 8-bit colors, 256 colors, or true colors. And yeah, and this color scheme needs this more than 8-bit colors for sure, and that's why this ASCII escape sequences have to be longer and stuff, and that's why yeah, we need to set this option to true. Yeah, that makes our new this plugin a lot prettier. And then there's also WitchKey, and WitchKey is a plugin that allows us to display yeah, all the there's this concept of a map leader, and this map leader is kind of the idea. You have this normal NeoVim key bindings like scrolling up and down, and yeah, I don't know, go up 8 lines, go down 12 lines and stuff, and yeah, normal the normal key bindings that you know and love, and you kind of want to separate your plugin key bindings from the normal key bindings. You don't want them to be in your normal override. I think you can't I'm not sure, but I think you can't override the default key bindings globally, only in buffers. But you don't want to pollute your normal key bindings, and yeah, that will be a mess. And that's why you define this map leader. This gives you a separate section of yeah, key bindings. That's of course here my full setup, but here in NeoVim there will be less. So I execute here WitchKey, and then I just hit space. That opens that's the map leader that I set here. some plugins make it backslash or comma. And yeah, now here I made R the default key for my RETI-Debugger, because RETI is R, and then if I hit R, then I can load, then there are all the different key bindings that I chose. Here I can, for example, load a special example, like, yeah, I kind of made these examples because not all of the students that are going to test my plugin are not going to might not know what RETI assembler or PicoC is. That's why I just provided here some example files, a PicoC program. And yes, I can quickly compile it and run it, and then there's and here in this, and here I passed this key bindings to my own setup function. Now it's basically done by the lazy. In your version, it will be done by this options by the lazy.nvim plugin manager, and it will just pass these options to it. But here it is done more explicitly, and it just calls this this function here and passes. There are some default key bindings for buffers, but I didn't want to specify global key bindings. So for my plugin, there are some default key bindings for buffer specific key bindings, but not for global key bindings. And that's why you have to specify the global key bindings yourself. And yes, and they get passed to this function, and then here normal default key bindings for the buffer key bindings. Global key bindings is something I haven't specified, and then what is done here is it takes your key bindings and adds all key bindings for buffers that you haven't specified to your options, to your keys key bindings, or basically it's all options, and they get this default options get merged into your specified options if you haven't specified something. And yeah, and here, yeah, lazy.nvim installs your plugin, and then whenever this config function and whenever your plugin loads, it will pass these options to your plugin. And yeah, and something else I want to explain quickly. You can not only see plugin key bindings with an nvim with which key, but you can also see all key bindings of NeoVim if you hit backspace. And then here we see all normal key bindings that you normally use in NeoVim. And here, because I specified special buffer key bindings for my NUI windows. And here, for example, I don't know if my mouse cursor can be seen in the recording, but here, for example, normally N is to search. If you go look here to N, next instruction, N is normally if you make a search, and then you can, with N, you can go to the next found search pattern. And here, for my buffers, I specified special key bindings that override the global key bindings, or the default Vim key bindings. Or also here, Q is to quit the RETI-Debugger again, and this was also, Q is normally to create a macro, and here it was overwritten by the RETI-Debugger Q command, key binding. And buffer key bindings override global key bindings, but they also only work within the buffers for which they were specified. They only work within these buffers and not outside of them. there the global key bindings work again. And yeah, and that's the reason I could just specify, I specified the buffer key bindings because they only work in the buffers, they don't make any problems, but global key bindings can make problems with our plugins. And that's why I don't specify them in here by default, and you can choose by yourself how to specify the global key bindings in this custom init.lua. Yeah, you can specify your global key bindings. You specify them yourself and may see what fits best for you. And then I think I might have explained everything I wanted to explain. Oh, one last thing I haven't then here the steps, that's what I explained in the meantime. If you hit nvim, then it's going to install everything automatically because there's this init.lua that we copied from copied custom init.lua to init.lua in your config directory of NeoVim, and that's just an auto install script. And this for lazy.nvim, this plugin manager, and this plugin manager then installs automatically installs the plugins. And then, yeah, of course, at the end you can also delete all packages again. Therefore, I have to quickly get out of everything again. So if I quit, then the container stopped, and is also removed directly because I specified this remove option, and we run it on the bash and interactively. So it's automatically deleted because of this app. This container is automatically deleted after running, but now we still have the image, and I quickly kill screen key, else my password can be seen. Sudo docker my K key is for some reason sometimes not working. Image, I think it was ls, yes. And there, of course, with this target tag, I specified a name for this image. And this image is, of course, now lying there. And we want to delete it, and therefore we just run this command here. Now it's deleted. Oh no, what have I done? I just run it again. I mean this command, of course. Now if I run docker, then it's gone. And of course you also have to, that's something I'm not going to make, but you of course also have to remove, because Arch Linux was used as a base for this Dockerfile for my image, and the Dockerfile as a base for my image. Arch Linux is also, this Arch Linux base image is also installed, and it's something one would also have to remove this way, but that's something I'm not going to do because I use it and I don't want to reinstall it. And yeah, but basically yeah, that's how you can remove everything again. Yeah, and now I think my recording is finished. Thank you for your attention, and I hope everything was understandable and you could now install your Docker container.